welcome to the Table Flip Phase Lands Front Edition. With me is my co-host, good old Durganlord. How you doing today?
I'm doing alright. Looking at some top 8 deck lists.
Yeah, let's talk about that top 8. As a red-white player, it was a beautiful, beautiful top 8, with most everything being red-white.
And the full 32 copies of the infamous Looter Scooter in that top 8.
Yeah! Looter Scooter, 32 copies. It was like 100 and something copies total in the, top 16? Probably not the top 16, but you get the idea. There were a lot of Looter Scooters. Is this going to be the same problem as we had with Hangerback Walker back when Origins came out?
I don't think so. It just seems like a lot of people are playing sorcery speed removal in that tournament, and Looter Scooter just like kind of laughs at that and smacks you for 3 or 4, depending on if you have the veteran motorist or the DePaula. So I don't think that this is going to be a major problem going forward, but it's still a card you need to watch out for in your decks. So instead of playing like Incendiary Flow, you need to start putting Harness Lightning and was it like Gideon's Reproach, maybe? I think that seems like a good card.
The white Convoke card, does that work? Is that sorcery or is that an instant?
Which one?
The white Convoke card with, not Convoke, the white Evoke card that you can tap to escalate.
Oh, yeah, Blessed Alliance?
Well, I guess Blessed Alliance works.
Yeah, it kind of is weird though if you're attacking with more than one creature, which a lot of the time the red-white vehicles decks are. Like they're getting in there with like a Toolcraft Exemplar and crewing their Thopter with a Thraben Inspector. So I think like usually the Aether Hub and Harness Lightning combo would be enough to get rid of a powered up Looter Scooter with the DePaula or Veteran Motorist. So I think that card is probably going to see rise in play along with Gideon's Reproach, which is a better version of Impeccable Timing that recently...
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, where Gideon's Reproach is deal 4, while Impeccable is only deal 3.
Yeah, which is kind of relevant when you have things like DePaula and Veteran Motorist on the field, because both of them give buffs to their vehicles. So what you're telling me is the sky isn't falling?
Sky's not falling. It's kind of like Shadows over Innistrad, where everyone's like, oh my god, Bant Company is can be the best deck ever, and they're going to have to ban Coco, and then the Pro Tour is just like, LOL, here's green-white tokens.
But Bant Company came back in Eldritch Standard. What if vehicles become the only thing?
I can already assure you with some of the first place decks that are popping up in some like invitational qualifiers that it's not going to be the big thing.
I guess you're right. I'm not a real Magic player. Automatically panic about the new standard. So let's talk about CVM's first place list, I guess. With, he's got the Looter Scooter, but he also has 2 flagship sovereigns. Sky Sovereign flagship, my bad.
I love that card.
You think it's going to continue to see play?
That card's pretty good. I think if you rank vehicles, of course, Smuggler's Copter is going to be the best one. And probably second and third is kind of a mashup between Cruiser and Sky Sovereign. Where Sky Sovereign just kind of comes down and blows something up, whereas Fleetwheel Cruiser comes down and then blows your opponent up, depending on if they have like a removal spell for it or not.
Right, and it looks like there aren't a lot of instant speed removal spells this time around, aside from, Harness Lightning, but it doesn't look like many people were running that week 1.
Skywhaler Shot is a pretty good answer to Smuggler's Copter, too.
Oh, Skywhaler Shot. Everybody was talking about how Skywhaler Shot's going to see play, but it didn't see a lot of play this week 1. I have faith it's going to see play week 2. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts?
It was in CVM sideboard, so I'm sure that it's going to pop up more often with the amount of vehicles that are being played, since it's a pretty clean answer to just a regular Smuggler's Copter, and even a better answer to like a 4-power one. Well, Patrick Sullivan was talking about how did I get his name right? Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I almost called him Cedric Sullivan. Got the two commentators matched up. He was
Of
talking about
course.
how the White Red Vehicles deck was a R&D deck, where R&D would put, this is one of the ideal decks that R&D would put together to make sure that it's not too powerful, but it's powerful enough. And what CVM did is he made it so, in case other decks like that pop up, that it's a pretty good mirror breaker, which is why he has copies of Sky Sovereign and a lot of copies of Veteran Motorist and DePaula to break the Thopter mirror.
Yeah, I find it amazing that DePaula is seeing standard play. Like, that's already a high enough ceiling that you have to break, but the fact that a Dwarf Vehicle Lord is seeing play week 1 is outstanding.
Yeah, that card's pretty good, especially when you tap it and you pay, when you have like no cards in hand and you pay 4 and you get like a copy of a dwarf and a vehicle right in your hand.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you want to talk about the Grixis Emerge deck, or do you want to keep talking about this red-white?
We can talk about the Grixis Emerge deck. That might pop up a little bit, especially since that deck has 4 copies of Smuggler's Thopter as well.
Yeah, the Emerge deck has 4 copies of Thopter for some reason. That's crazy.
Well, it's like really synergistic with Haunted Dead, where they can tap the Haunted Dead token to crew the Thopter.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. You got a spirit driving a helicopter, I guess.
And they can use it to discard their amalgams and their Haunted Deads and their Scroungers if they wanted to. So yeah, it's just basically all around the looting part of that is pretty good.
Yeah, who would have thought looting's so strong? Oh wait, we just had a set with Madness. That makes a lot of sense. This one, I guess this deck breaks the mold a lot because last standard we saw a lot of Temerge and Jund. No, we had Jund Delirium. But yeah, we had a lot of Teamer Emerge. But this one is just straight up Grixis. Do you think it has an edge mainboarding the, I'm assuming it's mainboarding the, oh, I guess it's not mainboarding the Mindbender. Yeah, it has 2 in the sideboard instead of main deck. Do you think this deck gains more by adding the black and dropping the green?
It gets access to bringing back Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is really relevant when it comes to getting a more, like an easier prized amalgam trigger. Basically, the way I see it is that the Sultai Merge deck that was seeing a lot of play at the end of last season, it's actually replacing the green with red rather than the green with black.
Really? Okay.
And so, and the reason why they use that is because of Cathartic Reunion, where they can like, oh, I'll discard my Kozilek's Return in this prize amalgam and draw 3 cards.
Pretty gas. Good. Yeah.
And then I'll merge my Alder Deep Fiend in flashback Kozilek's Return, and then return a Scrap Heap Scoundrel and get a prize amalgam triggers while we're at it. Just kind of flood the board there, which is usually that deck's game plan.
Yeah, this deck seems like a neat combination of the Delirium decks we've been seeing and the Emerge decks. With the, I don't know, the most interesting new tech from what I'm seeing is definitely the Scrap Heap Scrounger, but they're also using Crypt Breaker. What's your thoughts on that?
Crypt Breaker, I was watching the finals, and I think Zach Foss actually killed himself with Crypt Breaker.
Really?
Yeah, like, he was at 1 life, and he tapped 3, like, CVM was putting him to 1, and he didn't know that, and so he tapped 3 zombies and drew a card and lost the life, and CVM was just like, okay, this Thopter just kills you now. Because it was like a 4-power Thopter, and he didn't know that. So he put himself to 4 and then just lost. I think Crypt Breaker's like I think there's better options, especially since it's only like a 2 of. The part where it's discarding a card and putting like a Haunted Dead or a Prized Amalgam in the graveyard is okay. I don't think it's that good. Also, he mentioned Perpetual Timepiece not being a very good card in his deck, where he'd end up milling cards he actually needed rather than cards they needed to get in the graveyard. And he thought that just Cathartic Reunion and the Haunted Dead was enough discard to get cards in the graveyard they actually wanted to be there. And the Thopter too, where he just looted cards away that he didn't need. Yeah, overall this deck seems like a pretty big contender for one of the better Emerge decks. Because T-Merge did not do well at all.
No. I believe Michael Majors was out day 1 by round, is it 5?
I think so.
2 and 3, and he just was out.
Speaking of people that were out early, Caleb Shearer tried an Aetherflux Reservoir Storm deck and got 2 buys and dropped all 4 games in a row. So, fortunately, his build of that combo isn't that consistent, or it's, as you can see on the match that he's actually featured, just kind of like got destroyed by Lost Legacy naming the God, I forgot what it's called, the portal.
Paradoxical outcome.
Paradoxical outcome, which is how that deck wins. Like, it needs 2 pieces to win, unfortunately. It needs the Aetherflux Reservoir and the Paradoxical Outcome, otherwise it just has a hard time closing the gap of life that it needs to be at to 50.
Yep, but the deck's amazing.
It's hilarious.
Not everybody's going to be running Lost Legacy. You just got a bad matchup. No, I'm just going on a spiel.
Yeah. A couple more decks I want to talk about are was the green-black Delirium deck by Abe Schnake and the red-black aggro deck. So since the Delirium deck technically took 3rd, we're going to talk about that next.
Perfect.
Probably the biggest edge that deck had. I saw him connect with, like, Grimflayer multiple times. He actually didn't have any copies of the Demon, it looks like, which I thought that was a pretty good edge, but I guess they didn't really see a lot of play because the Demon is, like, the premier Looter Scooter blocker.
Demon of Dark Deals, or the
Mind Rack Demon.
Oh, the Mind Rack Demon.
Yeah, the 4/5.
Yeah.
For 4.
I don't know, didn't see a lot of play.
Yeah, his list actually didn't see of that. I think that card might pop up a little bit more often because of the Looter Scooter. He had 1 copy of Noxious Gear Hulk and 2 copies of the Verdurous Gear Hulk. I believe he said that Noxious Gear Hulk wasn't that much of a edge. It was just kind of, flop it, kill your, like, 2/2 or something like that, gain 2 life.
Yeah, that's a surprise, because everyone was saying Noxious was really good, but just really boring.
I'm not sure how Liliana's edged right now. I saw her a couple times on camera, but she kind of got looted on.
Yeah, it's a dark time for the Planeswalkers right now.
And Grasp of Darkness is a pretty good card for against the Thopter, but if you're representing it, your opponent's probably just not going to crew their Thopter.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like Grasp of Darkness right now because it kills Depala, it kills the Veteran Motorist, it kills a lot of things right now.
Yeah, Ishkana seems pretty good against the Thopter too, but fortunately Ishkana doesn't come down until turn 5, whereas the Cofters probably hit you like 3 times before then.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ishkana is going to be a big player this standard just because of the reach and all the spider tokens have reach. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is a huge problem that the Thopter can easily hit you a couple times before it comes down.
Mm-hmm. And the amount of times Grinflayer connected in this tournament and lost was amazing. Just kept on hitting people over and over again, but then like they would still lose, even though they hit like 3 times with the Grimflayer.
Is it safe to assume that Grimflayer is better to Modern than it is in Standard?
Oh, absolutely. Because in Modern, the card quality that you're getting with it is bonkers, whereas in Standard, it's just like, oh, I get some of these decent cards right here, and I'll get Delirium here.
So should I keep Grimflayer just to crew my Copter, or should I just drop it if I'm playing the green-black Delirium deck right now?
Oh, you should still keep it. It's like a must-answer 2-drop most of the time.
Okay. That leads to another side question. Who's better right now, Grimflayer or the Advocate? As your 2-drop. We know the premium 2-drop's the Looter Scooter.
In green-black, overall, Advocate's definitely better because it can be used in different decks, but are we talking about green-black?
Oh, just in general.
In general, I think Advocate's better because it can be used in a bunch of different decks, and it's just an all-around great card.
Okay.
It's kind of bad against Smuggler's Copter, of course, because it can't block it, but neither
Isn't
can
everything
Grimflayer.
bad against Smuggler's Copter, though?
Yeah.
I'm jam my 4 of Smuggler's Copter and my blue-white control. Alright, let's talk about that red-black aggro deck.
This deck just seems like it's built around unlicensed disintegration, and that's it.
I love that card.
That's what it feels like to me, is it just, the deck is a mono red shell. As you can see, the only black card in the main deck is unlicensed disintegration, not counting the sideboard. But yeah, it just seems like it's just built around that one card. Whereas if you have like multiple copies of it, you just win. If you have if you have at least like one artifact out there.
Now, yeah, I was listening to the game podcast with Jerry Thompson, and he was talking about having a red aggro deck, and he was talking about if it's worth it splashing black for the Scrappy Scrounger, just because it's such a aggressive creature and it works well with Inventor's Apprentice. Mm-hmm. Apparently they took what they said to heart, because not only do they have that, but during the same podcast, Michael Majors and Andrew Brown talk about how good Key to the City is in breaking mirrors. Mm-hmm. And just getting your creatures through. And he has 2 in the main board, so I don't know.
Yeah, Key to the City seems like a pretty good card. Just like, oh, you're at 3 life, I'll tap it so my my Scrappy Scrounger can't be blocked. Hit you for 3, and then like finish you off with a discarding Fiery Temper to it.
Oh, exactly. It's just, I don't know, I think it's going to be a good card. He also has Fleetwheel Cruiser, which is an excellent aggressive card, as we all know. But yeah, my favorite card in this is definitely Unlicensed Disintegration. I love removal, and having Bolt attached to removal is just great.
Yeah, that card's pretty good. Murder plus deal 3 to you is just pretty good.
What's your thoughts on his 2 Call of the Bloodlines in the sideboard? What would you bring that in for?
I was assuming he was thinking he'd see copies of the Therma Alchemist deck, where that card is really good against Fever Visions. But unfortunately, which makes me sad, that deck is probably not going to see a lot of play right now because of the amount of aggro decks. Even though like Blue-Red Therma Alchemist is like one of my favorite decks because I love Fever Visions as a card. But it is an absolute horrible card against aggro decks. If you look at the top 8, they are all aggro decks. Except for maybe Grixis Emerged in green-black, but they have ways to deal with Fever Visions anyways.
Now, week 1 is always aggro. It's rough. Mm-hmm. It's rough for the... Is Fever Visions a control deck? Or is that just a spell sling? Tempo?
It's like a tempo burnish deck that wins on like turn... wins on like turn 8 instead of turn 4 or 5.
Okay. The next deck I want to talk about is good old Tom the Boss Ross's green-white aggro. Doing everything we expect a green-white aggro deck to do. Mm-hmm. The 4 Virtuous Gear Hulks. But we also have Strictly Better Banisher Priest back. What's your thoughts on Fairgrounds Warden?
It's more of like a Strictly Better Fiend Hunter, where it has that extra point of toughness instead of 2/2. Where I think, in some cases, that extra point of toughness is better since it can block Sylvan Advocate and like Grim Flare and everything like that. It still can't block the Looter Scooter. If Fairgrounds Warden said like exile target artifact though, that would be like unstoppable in addition to creature.
That'd be so good.
Yeah, but unfortunately it doesn't. The card that I like the most out of the entire green-white aggro deck is definitely Blossoming Defense, where I was watching it play on camera not knowing they'd even had that in the deck. And they would like try to cast a removal spell on like their Gear Hulk or something like that, and they're like, boom, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, and I had to look up the card immediately, I'm like, what is that?
It is so good. Like, everyone was doubting this card, and then you see Brad Nelson just be like, yep, defend my thing. Oh, kill your thing. This card's so good. Do you think it's going to continue to see a lot of play?
It's seeing play in Infect right now as a replacement to Apostle's Blessing. Yeah, it's basically a replacement to that, because it's a pump spell in addition to protection on your Infect creatures. I believe Bradley Carpenter took first with that in the Modern Classic.
That's correct.
With 4 copies of that card.
Yeah, it's just a really good card.
So basically, overall in this tournament, Smuggler's Thopter is the real deal, and so you need to be prepared with either like Fragmentized, Natural State, or just instant speed removal spells for the Thopter. It's basically what you get from this tournament.
Yeah, always. So what do you think Actually, there is no week 2, because it's a limited weekend this weekend. So what's your Pro Tour prediction? What do you think is going to be big during the Pro Tour?
I think... Man, that's tough. I think that top 8 will have a deck with Chandra in it. I think that some of the Pro Tour testers have to find a way to break Chandra. Definitely there's going to be some sort of red-white vehicle aggro deck in the top 8, and probably some sort of a merge deck, because flashing back Kozilek's Return is, like, huge right now.
Are the Turbo Emrakul decks dead?
I think Turbo Emrakul's not good. I think the Emerge decks are good, though.
Okay.
The right build of the Emerge deck. Because unfortunately, as you see with Teamer Emerge, I do not think there was actually any copies of that in the top, like, 64. Let me look over it.
Yeah.
There was Teamer Aetherworks, but not Teamer Emerge.
Oh, what a sad day for Michael Majors.
A sad day for me too. I don't like Blue Red Thermal Alchemist doing that bad. There's only one copy at 23rd in the top 64. It looks like.
Yeah, and it's not even Ryan Overturf. Oh man, one day Thermo Alchemist will come back. One day. What's our next segment, Mr. Durganlord?
We should talk about some random deck lists that are popping up. I think. Today, as of the 7th of October, a green-white legendary deck list took first at a local, at an invitational qualifier. And the best part about this deck list, 0 copies of the Smelgoscopter in the 75.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I guess you're doing so many important things. What's the point of jamming the 4 Smuggler's Copter? If you look at the deck list itself, it's reminiscent of Last Standard's Black-White Angels deck list. And I think BBD actually tried using a deck list similar to this not too long ago. Am I correct on that, or am I just spouting things again?
I think this just seems like a pretty solid list where it's doing a lot of powerful things. It's got Gisela as a countermeasure for Smuggler's Copter, or a 4/3 first striker. Even the 4-power Smuggler's Copter is going to get like whacked on by that broken blade there.
Just really good. And then if for some reason you have Bruna on the battlefield, a 5/7 is definitely going to be dealing with good old Smuggler's Copter.
I'm pretty sure when you cast Bruna, it's probably because you're trying to do the meld shenanigans with that, which is why there's only 1 copy of Bruna in the 75 there. On the deck
Disagree. You're just gonna be jamming it. You should have 4
to do your Yu-Gi-Oh shenanigans right there. Or I'm gonna
of course.
For the deck's removal options, it's got, of course, watching out for the Smuggler's Copter. It's got 3 copies of Stasis Snare and 3 copies of Blessed Alliance to counteract the looter scooters. They're going to be pounded in on them. It took a tip from the green-white aggro deck and also has 3 copies of Blossoming Defense for protection for, I would imagine, their Gisela, because pumping up the Gisela to a 6/5, because I can't math with hexproof, is pretty huge.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. Doesn't it also have... Oh, and lifelink. So in case you need to gain a little life from the looter scooter, there you go. What's your thoughts on Declaration in Stone right now? It feels kind of
Yeah. It's a
The
worst part about it is its sorcery speed right now.
Kills Emrakul.
It kills Emrakul. Dies to Doomblade.
Dies to Doomblade.
Emrakul doesn't die to Doomblade because it's got proc instant, so...
Yep. But other than that, yeah, seems underperforming.
Because, basically, against, like, the vehicle aggro decks, you're like, oh, you're going to exile my dude, cool. I'm just going to play another and crew my copter with it, because of how crew works. Crew's a pretty well-designed mechanic.
Oh, yeah. Well done. They went through, like, 20 different iterations just to get that mechanic right. So, they did a really good job. What's your thoughts on Stasis Snare? Is it in a good place right now?
Yeah, I think Stasis Snare is a pretty exceptional removal spell for white decks. Andrew, I don't know if I got butcher his last name, Keynones, did a pretty good job about winning this invitational qualifier with his white-green Legends deck. Seems like a pretty good deck to move forward with in the future.
I'd agree with that. I love the one of Cataclysmic Gearhulk in the side. for when you know you're going to need to blow up the board.
Cataclysmic Gearhulk seems like pretty right now, because your opponent can just be like, okay, I'll keep my best creature and I'll keep my Smuggler's Thopter.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
So that card's probably boarding in against the non-Smuggler's Thopters deck, which looks like is the reason why it's only a 1 of in the 15-card sideboard right there.
Why would you need to put in 2 aerial responders, though? Do you think he's just testing it out?
I think he's just testing it out. That card seems fun to play with, but I don't know if it's actually good.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm weighing on the side of it's probably not great.
Especially against Smuggler's Copter, since it's only a 2/3.
Oh yeah, it's going to be destroyed by a copter. Last standard, though, this card would have been great. Flies over the Reflector Mages, can fight with the Reflector Mage, and all the other 2/3s that were in standard. Just great.
Mm-hmm.
News Constrictor seems okay right now. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. If there's a guy at your local tournament that's still trying to break Thermal Alchemist, it's an excellent card for that, and it's pretty decent at blocking Smuggler's Copters. I think in this deck list, though, I don't think it's all that awesome unless you have like a multiples of a card in your hand. Like, it's a lot better in the Emerge deck list where you're discarding enablers into your graveyard like Prized Amalgam and Haunted Dead. It doesn't have that interaction in this deck so much as it would be in like the other Emerge decks, so I don't think it's that amazing, but it's a pretty good card against Smuggler's Copter if you're willing to discard a couple cards if you want to at least keep it around.
I'd agree. And finally, let's talk about good old Quarantine Field, which
I love that card.
World Champion BBD also jams to in his green-white aggro sideboard from Indy. Is it worth it? You love it. Why do you love it so much right now?
It's like super Oblivion Ring, where you can take down multiple copies of... You can take down like a Planeswalker and a Smuggler's Copter. You can take down a Gearhulk or the dude that it pumped. It's non-land permanent, so you can basically just like destroy everything. I think with the amount of Smuggler's Copters and Quarantine Fields and everything like that, I think Planeswalkers are in a bad spot.
Oh yeah, Planeswalkers are in a really bad spot. Too bad for... I guess Gideon's not in a terrible...
I think Gideon is probably
right
the
now,
only... Yeah, I think Gideon's probably the only Planeswalker that's not in a bad spot right now. Because if it's being threatened, then you can just make an emblem.
Mm-hmm. And worst comes to worst, you got a 2/2, which I can't complain about. Mm-hmm. What about Nissa? Is it worth it, or is it not worth it right about now?
I think Nissa's... This is in a weird spot. She's a high-loyalty Planeswalker that can protect herself on the ground, though. It's not like she can't protect anything in the air, so she can +1 and get a 5/5. But that doesn't block her from any incoming 3/3s that loot.
Yeah, she's just... I don't know. In Theros Con Standard, I think she would have seen 4 of play in Abzan decks.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's good. She's definitely good, but she's not in a great spot right now.
Yeah, especially with Tyler Striker being in the same format, where her emblem just kind of becomes like, well, we already have a guy that does this, but it's a 3-drop.
Oh, exactly. And what's your 5/5 land going to do up against Virtutus Gearhulk giving some other 2/3 +4/+4?
Yeah.
Or 4 1/1 counters. That's a better thing to say, I guess.
Gearhulk is awesome. It's not my favorite one. It's, of course, the blue player in heart. My favorite one is the Torrential Gearhulk, the Mega Snapcaster Mage. Where,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's some control lists popping up with that in it. I believe.
Mengucci, I think, has a... Yeah, Andre Mengucci on October 5th actually put out a blue-black control list with Kaladesh that has Torrential Gearhulk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Flash is black, some Scatter the Winds, some... It's like Essence Instruction that he has in its deck, some Murder, some... I don't know, looking at the deck list, I'm having a hard time understanding why he's choosing Fortune's Favor over Glimmer of Genius. He says that he's doing it because the 2 cards that gets thrown to the graveyard will get flashback with Torrential Gear Hulk, which makes sense. I just really like Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Other than that, the deck looks decent.
Mm-hmm.
2 Kalitas, 4 Torrential Gear Hulk. That seems pretty good right now. Is Kalitas in a good spot, though? In your opinion? I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think he's okay, too.
If you're not against the Smuggler decks, not even the Smuggler decks, the white-red Smuggler decks, he's really bad against. Because what are you going to do? Kill the Paula, get a 2/2 zombie? Oh boy, they got a Thopter. But against the more fair green-white decks, I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, Kalitas is a decent spot right now. It's not too good, but not too bad either. So it's worth main decking him, of course.
Oh, of course. And then the 4 of Torrential Gear Hulk is excellent. Just because, why not flash in a 5/6 Snapcaster?
Just gonna counter your spell or kill a dude.
Exactly. Amazing. Other than that, the deck seems pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
Actually.
Reminds me of the blue-black control deck that saw play during, I think, Khan's Standard, where it had, Pearl Lake Ancient, and basically what it was is just kill all your stuff, counter all your things, and I'm going to play this, I think, was it 5/6 or 6/7 Pearl Lake Ancient was?
I think it's 6/7.
Yeah, and just play the 6/7 and kill you with it. Reminds me a lot of that.
I hope it's not I hope it's not like that, because that deck was really boring to watch.
Yeah, it was
especially in the mirror matches. What's your thoughts on Essence Extraction?
I think that card's really good. Right now.
Is it worth bolting something for 3 mana though?
Well, you're gaining 3 life off of that, which is one of the big things. This is really good against the red-white aggro decks, because if they have a Depala or something like that, and they choose not to create your Thopter in the face of your open 3 mana, then you're like, okay, I get to kill something, but I still gain 3 life. Which is pretty good, instead of just, I guess I have to use this Grasp of Darkness on your dude and not get anything out of it.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm not on the Essence Extraction. I see why it's a good card, but for 3 mana, I'd rather Murder, personally. Mm-hmm. But I get the life gain aspect. I won't complain too much. I guess this leads to our next segment. Let's talk about a little bit of finance.
All right, let's go ahead and move into some finance here. Probably the biggest mover this weekend, of course, was Smuggler's Thopter. That had, let me take a look at the exact percentage here. Overall, it had about a 90% gain from $9 to $17. So it went straight up there. The second biggest riser is Aether Hub with a 70% gain from $1.70 to about $3. So basically saw play in every single deck, even if it was only 2 color, which I think is a pretty bad idea unless you're running Harness Lightning. I saw Tom Ross was playing green-white and kind of got screwed because of that.
Yeah, I agree. Aether Hubs doesn't make sense for 2 color decks unless you're running Harnessed Lightning.
Because Harness Lightning just pumps up your Harness Lightning to a 4 damage spell instead of a 3 damage spell. Because the 4 damage is pretty relevant if your opponent's crewing their Smuggler's Thopter with a Depala or a Veteran Motorist.
Mm-hmm. I think Aether Hub's gonna. I think it's gonna go up a little bit more after Pro Tour weekend. It's just a good fixer for the 3 color decks like the Grixis Emerge and all that stuff.
The other major risers, Needle Spires, saw a little bit of about 60% jump. It's about a $2.50 card right now, of course, because red-white was the dominant archetype this weekend. And Scrap Heap Scrounger saw about a 40% gain to $2.50 because of the red-black aggro decks and the Grixis Emerge decks that saw play in.
Good week. What do you think's going to go up?
Within the next couple weeks?
Yeah, what do you think's going to go up in the next couple weeks?
Not exactly sure. I think Scrap Heat Scrounger will continue to rise up. I think Toolcraft Exemplar might see a little bit of a jump here and there. It's kind of hard to say. I think Sky Sovereign, it's already like a $9 card. I think it might jump to be about a $10 card.
Sky Sovereign? I agree with that. There's going to be a lot of safe jumps. I think Thopter is going to continue to go up a little bit more. Not by much, probably just a couple more dollars after the Pro Tour. Yeah, Sky Sovereign's a pretty good bet. I guess let's talk about the housing market crash that is Chandra then.
Yeah, I think that's completely appropriate for her to be dropping down that much. I think she's going to be on MTG stocks. It's dropped down to about $34, but that's not entirely accurate. If you look at the TCG player about how much it's selling for right now, it's selling around like $25 to the 28 range, which I think is the appropriate price for her right now. And probably will be for the rest of the standard format, unless, like I said, she breaks out the Pro Tour and does something completely busted.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if she's going to do anything completely busted, to be honest.
She's no Jace the Mind Sculptor, where Jace the Mind Sculptor has the ability to do something busted, where she's just kind of a fair mid-range planeswalker. And she's like not any like Jace for Rin's Prodigy, where she has like an extremely high loyalty and is like a key performance card. The other biggest loser we have is, for all you vintage players out there, Island of Wak Wak went down to $67.
A most significant thing, as someone who owns at least 20 Island of Wak Waks, this drop really breaks my heart. Do you think it's going to go back up, or do you think Island of Wak Wak is going to continue to go down?
I think in the future, all Legacy players should have at least 4 in their main deck as an anti-Delver and an anti-Smuggler's Copter build. Oh,
I agree with that. With Delver's actually on the rise. I believe it took first. Grixis Delver took first in the Legacy Classic during the Indie Open. So I'd agree with jamming 4 Island of Wak Waks to counter that.
Everyone buy your Island of Wak Waks now because Smuggler's Copter on the rise. So especially in those internal formats.
If Island of Wak Wak was in Standard right now, would it be safe to assume it would see a 4 of play?
Yeah.
What other decks do you want to talk about?
The deck that I've been jamming recently in my local FNM isn't like anything huge. It's just this really stupid Infinite Thopter combo deck.
I love that deck. Just phenomenal.
It's a Jeskai color deck that utilizes Panharmonicon and Decoction Module and Whirler Virtuoso to make infinite Thopters if you have at least one Decoction Module, and the other 2 can be substituted for a Panharmonicon or a Saheeli Rai copy of one of the 2. And basically what happens is whenever you make a Thopter, you get 3 energy, and then you pay 3 energy into Whirler Virtuoso to make another Thopter, and then you can choose any number you want to make that many number of Thopters. My personal favorite is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd Thopters. So I'm dumb like that.
Oh, no, that's not dumb at all. It's going to be relevant one of these days. So what was the true MVP of that deck?
True MVP is Panharmonicon, because when the deck isn't making infinite Thopters, it's utilizing Enter the Battlefield effects with Reflector Mage, Sky Sovereign, Drowner of Hope, Cloud Blazer, and Glint Nice Crane and Thravening Spectre. Getting like multiple triggers off those cards is just extremely fun. And Aether Hub in the deck is basically always going to be tapped for any number of mana, because the other side effect of having a Decoction Module is you just get a ton of energy for just playing Magic.
Oh yeah, I bet it's great.
And Aetherworks Marvel, in case you get like an excess amount of energy, is just used to find the missing piece of the combo that you need to get.
Okay. Other than Panharmonicon, who's your overperformer?
In the deck?
Yeah.
Reflector Mage.
Reflector Mage?
Yeah, that's how.
Oh no.
That's how you survive. In order to actually get the combo is by returning their guys that are going to beat your face into their owner's hands. The only thing is when I was swinging my FNM, there were no Smuggler's Copters that I played against, this deck is probably extremely bad against Smuggler's Copter.
Oh, yeah, that seems really... Smuggler's Copter don't cur whatsoever. Who is your underperformer?
It's hard to say. All the decks are pretty synergy. I missed a lot with Glintnest Crane, but I wouldn't call it an underperformer because of that. For the amount of times I missed, I probably got I hit with a Decoction module, which is still a pretty decent hit, or a Panharmonicon, which is reasonable. There are not a lot of artifacts in the deck that you can hit off of it. I probably only cast Cloud Blazer once though, but it's only a 2 in the main deck.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get to draw 4 game 4 though?
Yeah, it was that felt good, but basically, if I'm casting Cloud Blazer, I'm probably already winning anyways. The deck was originally designed by Frank Karsten in his Channel Fireball article 20 Standard Brews with Call This. So I want to give him credit for that. And
there will be a link in the description below with the deck list and a link to his article.
If it's a fun deck to stomp your local FNM with, as long as your FNM isn't flooded with Smuggler's Copters like the big tournaments are right now. But I'm looking forward to the Pro Tour. I think it's going to shake up the format a lot.
Oh, I think it's going to shake up the format a lot. So what did we learn today, Mr. Durganlord?
Well, we learned to respect 3/3 flyers that loot, and we learned that they're most likely not going to dominate the format in the future, as they are right now.
We also learned that Chandra is dropping like the housing market, and probably will continue to go down. And most importantly, we learned that Island of Walk Walk should see 4 of play in Vintage and Legacy.
And EDH, because the one card rule doesn't apply to such a great card.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
I have an EDH deck where 90% of my lands are just Island of Walk Walk, and it's really good against dragon decks. Sorry, Durganlord.
Yeah, my Nimbus deck doesn't like having its power reduced to 0.
Oh, but it's just such a good card. It doesn't even have the legendary rule. That's amazing. That means there's 20 Island of Walk Walks out there. What a great standard. And now, well, thank you, Durganlord, for joining me today. All right, that's our show. See you. Are we doing next week? Are we going to talk about Limited next week, or are we going to just...
I think we'll probably wait for the next Standard tournament.
I agree. So we'll see you after the Pro Tour. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.